Hi, it's Drew Tignanelli. This is our July, the great month,
The great
right?
month for the country and for Drew.
The birthday month. This is
Birthday month.
July coming up. And it's not July as we record this, but it will be July when you listen to this. And the end of July, the great day, as we like to call it in the office. July 31st is my birthday, so don't forget that. I'll be 67 this year, Mike, and I still have no plans to retire. Did you
Yeah,
hear that? I
I
have
heard
no
that.
plans
I've heard it
to
before. I
retire.
hear it again.
I enjoy what I do. I have no desire to retire. I couldn't imagine fishing and playing golf or traveling or whatever.
And I
All
couldn't
the
imagine
time.
how we'd review all those tax returns.
You know, I don't know, but anyway, July. So we're here to do our July update. Markets continue to climb, Mike. The S&P and the Nasdaq, especially on the back of the handful of tech stocks, continues to climb. It's kind of getting interesting, um, But that's the beauty of indexes is that as markets go up, the indexes don't care if valuations are high or not. They just follow those stocks up. And
Right. Well, the index becomes more and more weighted to the stocks that are growing.
yeah,
So it becomes more and more dependent on that. So a couple things before we get deep into that is that so interest rates are still being projected to stay the same. The next Fed meeting is July 30th to 31st, but at the moment, nobody expects to see any change out of them. Inflation is hovering right about 3.3%, which is, again, it's higher than their target, but the question is always, is their target of 2% really the correct number forever and ever? Unemployment ticked up a little bit, just to 4%, which is still a pretty low unemployment number, wouldn't you say, Drew?
yeah, it's very low. And I mean, historically, it's been 4 to 5. So we're on the low end of the historical standard.
So in the news, broadly, but especially in the financial news, artificial intelligence has been a big theme. And for financial news, part of that is because NVIDIA, the chip maker, who makes the chips that are most desirable for AI learning and AI computers. It's an interesting story. The founder of NVIDIA is still running the company, around the same age as you, and which is, for a tech company, it's fairly rare that the founder stays on and continues that active of a role. But anyway, they make these chips that for a long time ago, they developed chips for gaming that would, and video games, video, the artistic part of it, or the watching the animations move, apparently takes a considerable amount more computing power. So NVIDIA was ahead of the game making these chips for gaming, and now has become this huge powerhouse in AI. So NVIDIA has gone up so much; it's gone up 170% for the year. But in the month of June, 1/3 of the S&P 500's increase, 1/3 of it was just from NVIDIA alone. And then the other tech stocks that are supporting that include Microsoft and Apple.
Yeah,
Um,
well, that's the funny thing is that when you get a move like that in a stock like Nvidia, everybody and his brother wants to try to find out, should I be buying Nvidia? And the answer is, I mean, you can if you want. I can't tell you what's going to happen, but they have to have the perfect right storm. Everything has to continue to happen right for Nvidia for that stock to continue to power forward. And it's a chip maker. You know, who knows what tomorrow holds for a chip
yep.
maker? It's not like they make, like Apple, who makes the iPhone. You need that iPhone. You're not going to get rid of your iPhone anytime soon.
Yeah.
But Nvidia could be usurped within weeks, for all we know. Um,
Well, this morning, some of the financial pundits were saying that with 170% gain, and also so much of it just in the past month or so, one false step and the stock could tumble.
yeah, I mean, even if it came down by 50%. the stock would still be richly valued based
Unless you
on,
buy it now, it's still
yeah,
you lost 50%.
yeah, it's but if it continues to, if no one can catch up with them, Nvidia will do extraordinary.
So
There's a guy out there who wants to raise $7 trillion. Now, this is just for an initial investment. $7 trillion of an initial investment to make AI chips. Now, if you heard what I said, he's saying that even an investment of 7 trillion will still be a great investment because that's how much power it's going to take to get the AI revolution really working. And Nvidia is only worth about 3 trillion right now. So if Nvidia can hold on, who knows what they could be worth? But everything has to go perfect for them. I couldn't bet on that.
So the other story here is about how these indices have been performing and numbers they've been putting up, and then the fact that these tech companies are making up such a large portion of those gains. So Liz Ann Sonders is the chief economist for Charles Schwab. She puts out research quite often, and her theme has been the tale of two markets. So on one side, you see this S&P 500 and Dow, well, the Dow's kind of hovering, but S&P 500 and the NASDAQ kind of taking off. But that's not really true for all of the companies that are inside that, for that market as a whole. So the tale of two stories is, on one side, you see the index going up, but on the other side, there's many underlying companies that have not done as well, or not done well at all. So
And our portfolios are positioned to take advantage of the large cap tech stocks to some degree, but it's designed to take advantage of lots of different markets, the international markets, the small caps, the mid caps, and that's where we have to be based on all academic research says a broadly diversified portfolio will be will be a good place over the long term. Each period of time, Mike, a specific asset class can dominate. But when they stop dominating, it's usually not pretty.
Well, and speaking of asset classes, some asset classes, you're not really even sure what you own. Isn't that true?
Yeah, I've been talking about this lately, is that, I'm getting a lot of calls about Bitcoin and gold. Okay. And people want to buy it because they hear it's going up. They hear it's going up, and they're reading these articles about how much it's going up and why it's going up and so forth. But, the way that an investor works is they look at assets and they think about, what do I own and why paying this price today will it be worth more in the future? So the way an investor looks at things, Mike, is it says, what do I own? What revenue do I get? What talent do I get? What patents do I get? What goodwill do I get? What assets do they own, et cetera? Why do I believe that will be expanding into the future? And then say, okay, and I want to invest in this because 5 years, 10 years, I believe that revenue, earnings, assets, patents, talents are going to continue to expand, and it's going to be worth it to me, right?
Right.
Even if everybody and his brother sells the stock and the stock goes all the way down to, let's just call it a penny a share, you still own all those revenues, all those earnings, et cetera, et cetera. And Warren Buffett says, I wished every American would sell every penny of stock they have so I can buy them all.
Yep. Well, let me talk about my two beefs with gold. I have two beefs. Beef number one, which is unavoidable no matter how you buy gold, is, unless you go mining, that might maybe avoid it that way, but the expenses. If you buy physical gold, you pay a premium when you purchase it, and they charge you a premium when you try to convert it back into usable economic form. And it tends to be exorbitant.
And then you have to keep it safe while you have it between.
Let me get to that's my second one. But so if you buy it on the market, the fees are even crazier because they charge you these really high storage fees. So if you're buying it electronically, not physically, the incredible storage fees are there. If you actually physically go buy gold, which is seen as a store of safety, the funniest thing about it is there's so many more risks to physical gold. The biggest one that I see is people forgetting where they put it. The second one is obviously, theft of it. There's really no tracing what happens to the gold. So those are my two beefs with gold.
And those are excellent points, but we want to look at the investment concept behind gold. When you buy gold, what's going to make the price of gold go up? It's strictly more people wanting the gold than what's available out there. And you have to look at what's the cost of mining gold. Well, it costs about $1,200 to $1,700 to mine an ounce of gold. And if the price of gold continues to go higher, they'll just suck that stuff out of the ground faster than you could imagine. So all you own when you own gold is something that you're betting on that there's going to be more demand in the future. Now, take Bitcoin. With Bitcoin, all you own is a theoretical mathematical formula. It's called a blockchain. And it takes a lot of math, computer analysis to run the blockchain. So to create a Bitcoin, Mike, it takes about $2,000 to $10,000 worth of electricity to be able to run the computers, to run the mathematical formula, to solve the equation to prove that that transaction is a legitimate piece of the blockchain. That sounds a little complicated, but that's basically the gist of what's happening. They say that Bitcoin is finite, that there's only so many of them, and that's why they're going to pay millions of dollars for a Bitcoin in the future. But, you own nothing. You own nothing but a theoretical mathematical formula. There's no talent, there are no assets, there's no earnings, there's no revenue, there's no goodwill. There's just this thing that you're hoping somebody wants to pay more for in the future. So you put those two together, gold and Bitcoin. It's theoretical that somebody's going to want it in the future. There's nothing behind it, like a stock where you have talent, revenue, earnings, assets, goodwill, et cetera, et cetera. It's totally illogical that people run after these things. But once they get moving, Mike, everybody gets excited about it. Everybody gets into it. I mean, go back and study the tulip bulb mania of Netherlands back in the 1400s. It's a fascinating story how people were paying a year's worth of wages to buy one tulip bulb because they were becoming that valuable until it collapsed and they became worth nothing because nobody wanted them anymore.
Right. Well, so moving on to our other planning topic, it's not a happy one to talk about, but it's something that we need to continue to remind everybody is that fraud schemes are just going up and up and up. And the number of clients that we have that have fallen victim or almost fallen victim, and it's more than just the loss of money. It's like a form of psychological assault.
Assault. That's a good word.
The people that we know that have gone through this, they are impacted beyond just the loss of money, embarrassment and guilt and all these things. And, they shouldn't necessarily feel that way because, it's not their fault. They were getting scammed, but it's something we need to keep talking about. So, most of these things come in the form of a threat, so if you get a phone call or an email that's very threatening from an unknown or an unexpected source, you need to immediately put your red flag up. Well, this is suspicious. Some of them do come in the form of prizes. The Federal Trade Commission has a lot of information on their website about this. But the ones where you've won something, they say, oh, well, you've won this wonderful prize, but you just need to pay this fee in order to get it. Now give me your account information. No one ever charges you money after you've won a prize. That's not a real thing. The biggest way that these things are getting through is most of them are phone scams, and there's a term called spoofing. And spoofing is the ability for these fraudsters to make changes to the phone system so that when they call you, a phone number on the caller ID shows up as whatever they want it to, which generally they'll pick the actual real phone number for whatever agency they're trying to impersonate. And they'll have the caller ID name come up as that agency, Internal Revenue Service, FBI, so on, and IRS, so on and so forth. You know, these government agencies, they barely take our phone calls. They never call. They never start any kind of engagement by calling. They always send written correspondence. You're always going to get letters and emails well before you get a phone call. But not to say that you still shouldn't be skeptical of letters and emails. We definitely had a client recently who got a letter from an agency that once they actually called the agency, they found out that the letter was a scam. The other thing is that scammers will often insist that you pay in a way that makes it hard to get your money back. This could be a wire transfer, gift card, cryptocurrencies, or a payment app. The one that I've heard about the most recently is where they tell you that your bank account has been compromised and that they need to, and they're the FBI, and they need to help you to move your money to a secure account before any more is lost. Well, that's not a real thing. And we've had, a couple clients do it. And, recently we just had somebody almost get there. Luckily they figured out it was a scam before they did that. One of the things that you can do that's not perfect, but it's an option to at least give you even more of an idea of when something's a scam, is add your phone number to the National Do Not Call list. That's donotcall.gov. And it's just going to be another tool that if you know you're already on that list and somebody's calling you claiming they're from, some financial institution that you don't have, you'll know that that's even higher risk that they are a fraud. Also, it cuts down on some of the telemarketing calls, which is pleasant. But yeah, Drew, you've seen this as well, right?
Yeah, they did it to my mother a few years ago. They called her up and said, "Grandma, I'm in trouble. I need help." And she said, "Is this Chris?" And they said, "Yeah." So he immediately let her tell him the name of one of her grandchildren. And then he told her that he was in an accident. It was his fault. Somebody got seriously hurt and he's in jail and he needs to be bailed out. Well, I mean, my mother was shaking when she called me to tell me that she needed to come up with this money to get him out of jail. And fortunately, my mother didn't handle her money. I handle her money. And I said to her, "Mom, it was a scam." And it took all the way. We had to get my nephew to call her to convince her that it wasn't him on the phone. It was a total scam. But I mean, she was crying, trembling at 90,
Yeah.
91 years of age, It's just evil, evil, evil people. I tell you, I don't think there's a punishment too great for these people when they catch them. But, knowing government today, we just slap them on the wrist, tell them not to do it anymore, see if we can convert one to be a good guy and help weed them out. But, I have different ideas. But yes, there are tons of scams. I hate to see them. So be vigilant. If anything, my wife is great at this. She gets an email or a phone call. She just says, "Nope, nothing." Drew's got me so scared too. If Drew tells me that this is okay, then I'll do it. But otherwise, I'm just hanging up. Boom.
Yep, absolutely.
That's what you have to do is have a child or somebody you trust explicitly that you can call, just hang up and go to somebody you trust and say, "This is what they say. Should I be worried about this?" And 99% of the time, Mike, it's going to be no.
Absolutely.
So anyway,
we're not quite done yet. Something we skipped at the beginning is we just want to let everyone know that we have an article coming out this month strategic tax planning tips for retirement bliss.
That's a great article. I read it. It's very well done. So
Yeah. And then we also have a webinar coming out, Best Places to Retire.
yeah.
So keep a lookout for those.
And I'm teaching one at the end of June. You'll get this after that, but you can still watch the replay. It's about charities and how to maximize your charitable giving. So lots of good information on our Knowledge Center, Mike. If you can watch all of our radio show, or listen to all of our radio shows, you can watch our webinars and see the articles that we've written. So anyway, I think we're out of time.
I think we are.
Anyway, this is Drew Tignanelli saying God bless.